Fajr Reminder, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Tasliman kathiran kathira. From Badu, I'm on this beach in Maine, Atlantic Ocean. The tide is just going out. So this part of the beach is nice and flat and clean. You can see the waves coming in, and you can see the few boats in the distance. Very, very tranquil, peaceful, wonderful scene. You've got the gulls doing what gulls do, looking for fish. I must recommend this wonderful book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which I suggest you should read. I think it's one of the finest books to read, to understand, especially the concept of excellence in life. I've read it many times. The first time I read it when I was in school, and teaches us the concept of excellence. In that context, I must also recommend that you read all the books of Ayn Rand, A-Y-N-R-A-N-D, which also focus on the concept of excellence, of taking pride in your work, of building a legacy that you can be confident and proud about, leaving behind some traces, unlike traces in the sand which wash off every time the tide comes in, but these are more long-lasting than that. Now, all of that comes from one very, very important thing in life, which is to actually do some work, not just the pretense of work, to actually do some work. The reason I'm saying that is because I was speaking to another very dear friend of mine who's studying, he's doing his engineering in one of the Ivy League colleges here, universities in America. And he was telling me that, I mean, he said it jokingly, but obviously he understands the seriousness of that. So he was telling me that people are submitting assignments using ChatGPT, the whole thing. And so he says professors have now a way of detecting where ChatGPT has been used and catching it. But he says now they have come up with a tool where they do what is called humanizing ChatGPT. So you don't get the usual flat kind of writing that you find with ChatGPT. You get something which sort of sounds half a human. And then of course we know how this technology develops and how it is capable of, constantly improving and so on and so forth. Simultaneously, and subhanAllah, this is min Allah Ta'ala. I think Allah Ta'ala guides and helps in ways we cannot imagine. So while I was listening to this friend of mine saying these things, I also got a message from another friend of mine who's also doing engineering, who sent me a New York Times article. And lo and behold, to my great delight, I discovered that New York Times not only published the article, but New York Times gives that article for you free, so the firewall doesn't affect it. And I'm going to ask Umar to put that article into the description of this reminder. And that article talked about an actual case, complete case history of this person who the chatbot convinced him that he was one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, and resulted in him sort of actually falling into mental illness. And good news is in his case was that he managed to get out of it as well. So he was able to break that, which may not be obviously the case with everyone who falls into that kind of a trap. So you have this case of these people like that also happening because of ChatGPT. Another thing which happened again recently, and all of these things, they happened together, which is a message in itself, is two people wrote letters in which I was mentioned, and very interestingly, both the letters, although these are two different people writing these two letters, and they're trying to make it seem as if they are two independent letters, but they have both used ChatGPT, very clearly visible from the tone of the letter and so on, and to the extent that the words they have used are the exact same words in both the letters. Now, so of course it is easy to laugh at this and say what kind of stupidity is this, and it is stupidity, but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying you're getting in these cases of students in colleges who seem to be getting most of their work done using ChatGPT or Gemini or one of the chatbots, one of the LLM models. Now, I am not against AI or LLM models and so on, although I never, absolutely do not ever use ChatGPT. I don't even use it for research, but in some cases I use some other things, some other LLM models which I think are better for some research. But my writing is always is me. I never ever use any AI for a very good reason, and that is that, alhamdulillah, I am confident about my writing, and I take pride in my writing, and I take pride in the fact that I want my writing to be my signature. I want my writing to be something that I have done, not something that some machine has done, which I'm trying to, even if I don't try to pretend that I did it, but just to take it and copy paste it is something I think it's beneath my dignity, and it's an insult to my intelligence and my talent and capability. Final point before I close the loop to why I'm saying all this is a joke, quite a interesting joke. Somebody said you'd better take care of your health because doctors are using ChatGPT to get their degrees. Now that is a very significant and poignant point, which I think is really worth thinking about. Take care of your health because doctors are using ChatGPT. I'm not talking about take care of your health. You take care of your health anyway, irrespective of what doctors are using or not using. But take care of but the fact of the fact that doctors are using this ChatGPT to get their degrees, and we certainly know, I don't know if doctors are actually using it, but maybe they are. With engineers, yes, they are using. I have statements from people in engineering colleges in America. So one can assume the same thing is happening elsewhere in the world. To say that people are using ChatGPT to submit assignments and so on and so forth, and either they or the LLM model creators are creating tools to prevent them from being caught out. Question is this. The question is, when you go to a college, what are you going there to do? So ask yourself this question. When you go to a college, what are you going there to do? And remember, no matter what you do, the fees is the same. You're paying the fee. You are spending that time, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, you are, expending energy and so forth. All of that you're doing. None of that changes one bit. Yet, if you use an LLM model, if you use ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or whatever you want to call it, if you use that to submit your assignments and so on, what have you learned? Right? Two very important things. What have you learned? Nothing. You've learned how to try to deceive the system. Is that worth learning? Is that your legacy? Is that something that you want to be known for? Somebody who deceived their way to get a degree. Is that the epitaph on your headstone? Is that something that you want to be remembered for? That you are a cheat? That you got this degree by cheating? Number one. Number two, therefore, what have you actually learned? I mean, that's a dumb question. What have you learned? Nothing. Because obviously, if you got the chatbot to write your reports and your assignments, you learned nothing. At best, you learned how to deceive. Number three, and that's very important, is you are sabotaging yourself, because one of the greatest benefits, one of the greatest rewards, not even benefits, one of the greatest rewards of going to university is the feeling of achievement. The feeling of achievement that I have achieved this. I have worked for this degree. I earned this degree. All the, the midnight oil I burned. And when I was in business school, we were on this course, the executive MBA course from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, IIMA. It was called the MEP, Management Excellence Course. We used to study. The whole course was the fee was the same as the 2-year MBA program. The fee was the same. The syllabus was the same. So we were studying the same things that the regular MBA candidates were studying, and we did this course. But we did that course in, half the time, 2/3 of the time. So the result obviously was that we had to work our butts off. We had to study like hell. We worked very, very, very hard. And among the things we did was, night outs was like the standard. I don't think I ever slept in that entire period. I don't think I slept for more than 4 hours in 24 hours on any day. The course itself was so intense that we had to do this course. There were no holidays, no festival holidays, no weekends obviously, no vacation, nothing. There was a 1-week break in the middle of the course where everyone went home. That was the purpose of it. But I couldn't go because I had no money. To attend the course, I had sold my car, used that money, and the rest of it I borrowed from my company, which loaned me that money. They didn't sponsor me. I asked them for sponsorship, they did not give it. And they loaned me the money. They cut my pay for all the months that I would study in this course. They didn't pay me my salary for that. And they made me write a bond to say I would come back and work for 3 years thereafter with the company. Now, you're not looking at, was that a nice thing to do or not a nice thing? Forget that. I was committed enough to say, I'm willing to do all of this without question. I need the money. This is the only way I'm going to get it. So I took it, I signed all those documents, and I went for the course. Now, we used to do all-nighters. And there was a tea stall, tea seller outside, just outside the gate of IIMA, and he would sell tea and he would sell Maggi noodles. Indians know what Maggi noodles are. These are sort of quick do noodles. They just open the packet, put it in a pan, and you got your noodles. So he used to make these Maggi. So we used to eat these Maggi noodles and drink tea, and then continue with our work, all-nighters. And not just one day. This was almost the norm, because one of the things about the IIM Ahmedabad was the case study method, which IIM Ahmedabad pioneered in India. They took it from Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School helped to set up, as part of the collaboration, to set up this IIM Ahmedabad in India, which is the #1 business school. And so the one thing was case study. Second thing was, we had these snap tests. So the only time you knew that you're going to have an exam in this class on this day was when the professor walked in with a bunch of papers, which was the scoring sheets, in his arms. So the moment you saw him walk in, you say, "Oh my God, this is going to be a test." That's all. Otherwise, you didn't know that. You didn't know that he was going to test you. So it meant, and the whole purpose of that was that it meant that you had to be on top of the subject 24/7. There were no days off. You had to be on top of the subject the whole time. And that's what we did. So we studied like hell, and we did that. Now, the point is that this was long before ChatGPT. I'm talking about 1985. The whole experience of working hard, of sacrificing your rest, and sacrificing your peace of mind, and sacrificing your things that lead to happiness. On a side note, I went for this course 1 month after I got married, and I did not see my wife or talk to her during the entire duration of the course. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't afford to. She went off to Leeds, to England, to be with her parents, because they didn't allow family accommodation in the hostel in Ahmedabad, and I was in the hostel in the college. These were the days before all the chat programs, before not just ChatGPT, but any kind of chat. So we didn't have FaceTime, and we didn't have WhatsApp and all of that. So talking to somebody internationally meant making an international telephone call from a landline. Awful connections. You could hardly hear the person, and cost a hell of a lot, none of which I could afford. So I could not speak to her. I didn't see her for the duration of the course. You have to make these sacrifices to study, to learn. So my MBA I got the hard way, by actually learning concepts, reflecting on them, actually writing papers, by experimenting in the field, and learning the truth of what I studied, and in some cases learning that some of the stuff I studied was rubbish, but learning that from an experiential perspective, right? Now this satisfaction of having climbed the mountain, this satisfaction of working hard to achieve results, you voluntarily deprive yourself of that if you fall into this terrible thing of using ChatGPT or any other LLM model to submit your subjects, submit your reports and assignments and so on. I won't mention the names and so on, but I was in a country speaking at a University of Science and Technology, and two things struck me. One was the whole place looked like it was on a fashion parade every day. And the clothing of people, everyone in very fancy clothing, very, very fancy handbags, and the cafeteria was almost constantly busy. So I remember thinking to myself, well, when do they study? Because they seem to be sitting around, hanging out with their pals in the cafeteria the whole time. So when are they studying? So after I finished my lecture and so forth, I was chatting with some of the faculty, and one of them tells me, they said to me, Sheikh, there are students here, and many of them who pay the faculty members to write their theses. And then, of course, I said, how do they defend it? I said, well, probably the same guy who wrote the thesis is in the Viva. So, doesn't take much to defend that. They pay them. I said, what do they pay them? And he told me some astronomical number. He said, this big money. They pay them to get this thesis. So, I said, fantastic. What a wonderful idea. I wish I knew this. And I wish I had some professors when I was doing my MBA who were willing to take money to give me a degree. But first of all, I wouldn't do it if I had the money. Secondly, I didn't have the money. And thirdly, I had professors who would have kicked me in the teeth if I even mentioned that I was going to offering them money to give me degrees. And so I learned. Now the point I'm making here is, whichever way you use, whether you get your degree using ChatGPT or whichever model, or you get your degree because you paid for it and there was some person there who was willing to take money and write some stuff for you, the fact remains that you did not actually learn that subject. Now, if you just want the degree to, frame it and put it up on your wall, well, maybe that works. But if you are actually intending to work, then it's like getting a degree as a sailboat captain, and then you're put into a sailboat and you're shoved off into the sea. Then what happens? Then you drown. There's no great mystery involved. You drown because you don't have the faintest idea how to sail a boat. You have a degree which is worthless, which is not worth the paper it's written on, and you have the degree because you were stupid enough to pay for it, but you don't know how to sail the boat. The exact same thing. If you're going to use ChatGPT to submit assignments, the fact remains that you have not learned anything. You don't know that subject. You are only able to submit the assignment because of the LLM you're using. Now that is the most incredibly stupid thing that you could possibly do. I don't think this requires much convincing for anyone who has any intelligence, and if you don't have intelligence, then obviously convincing doesn't work. But think about that. So you have spent the money in the college fees, you spend the time and energy, but you have no satisfaction at the end of that. There's no sense of achievement. Now I can talk about, I did my MBA in 1985, this is 2025, till today. When I think of my MBA, I'm not thinking about my degree. My degree, frankly, has no great value, apart from the fact that my institution is a very highly thought of institution, and the institution has a name. But at my age, in my consulting practice, nobody ever asked me for degrees. They don't care. They're looking at my track record of what I have done with other clients, and they talk to those clients, and then they look to see what I can produce for them actually on the ground. And if I'm adding value to them, for which they are paying me, they don't care what degree I have or I don't have. But I'm able to add value to them, and I'm able to charge a fee which they are happy to pay because I know my stuff, because I know what I'm talking about, because I add value to them, because I can actually help them. But I could never do any of that if I had used ChatGPT or a compliant, dishonest professor or whatever to do my job for me. So please, my dear friends, let me assure you, please do not sabotage your own future. Don't sabotage your own future by using ChatGPT or whatever to get you grades, to submit assignments, because you are cutting your own throat. You are learning nothing. Your education is worth nothing, even though you paid for it, even though you spent all the time in university, and at the end of that, you cannot possibly have any sense of achievement because you know what you did. You know what you did. You know you are a thief, and you know what you did. Now, why do you want to do that to yourself? So please, stay far away from these things. Be honest. Go to the university to study, to acquire skills. Work hard. Get those skills. And then you can stand tall and proud that you struggled, you succeeded, you achieved, you earned your degree, and today you are able to actually do something worthwhile and help people, and in the process make good money, all because you stayed honest. Honest to yourself, honest to Allah, and honest to the community that will come to you. All your clients, systems, and everybody else will come to you as you go forward. I wish you all the best. I wish you success. I wish you honesty and integrity, which in my view and to me is the number one value in life. There is nothing, there is no amount of money, there is no power and authority, there is absolutely nothing that compensates for honesty and integrity. If you don't have honesty and integrity, it does not matter what else you have. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.